Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to wait for just about a minute or so. We're going to give folks a chance to join the room here, and then we will begin shortly with the 5 things every advisor needs to know about crypto today. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, we'll start in about 1 minute. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome again, everybody, to the 5 things every advisor needs to know about crypto today. My name is Chris Quant. I'm a senior advisor success coach here at Riskalyze. I'm going to be facilitating our time together today. And this webinar is presented in partnership with Rubicon Crypto. And I'd like to welcome our guest speaker today, Greg Johnson, co-founder and CEO of Rubicon Crypto. Greg, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Chris, it's terrific to be with you. Good afternoon, and thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Oh man, we're excited you're here. We're going to dive into our conversation here in just a bit, but just a bit of housekeeping for folks on the call as we're getting started today. So today's webinar is being recorded, and you will get a copy of the recording as soon as we're done with that. So keep an eye on your email. Now we'll have a chance for questions a little bit later on. So if you have questions, inside of your GoToWebinar control panel, there's a questions box. So feel free to use that right there to ask your questions. I'll keep an eye on that. We'll ask Greg some questions here at the end. And just to get you used to using that questions box, I've been told my last name, which is Quant, is pretty good for our industry. So first person, well, not first person, let's just say best pun on my last name in that questions box. I'm going to choose a winner at the end here. We'll give away a little bit of Riskalyze swag to our winner, and that's quantifiable. Okay, you can't use that one, but there's a pun that'll get you started there inside of that questions box. So again, and ask your questions as we're going through the webinar today. And as a reminder, this is available for CE credit. Now, during the registration process, you should have been able to put in your CFP number in there. But if you have any questions about that or follow up on getting credit for that, please email us at events@riskalyze.com. That's events@riskalyze.com. But that's enough of the housekeeping there, Greg. Let's go ahead and get started today. Let's level set our conversation. And would you mind sharing a bit more about your background? Maybe one fun fact about yourself, if you're game for it. And while you're at it, would you mind telling us a bit more about your co-founder's background, Mike, as well? And if you've got a fun fact about him, maybe that too.
Well, I might save that for a little bit later on in the presentation, but I got fun facts about him and me for sure. I can tell you that much. But you know what, Chris, it's terrific to be with you all. And first of all, congratulations on all the success that Riskalyze has enjoyed, some of the big improvements in the evolution in the business ever since Palm Springs when you made some big announcements. Just very, very happy for you and your team. And I have to say, I'm speaking to the Riskalyze community, and so they're probably very familiar with the ACAT moment. And I have to say that there are very few subjects outside of Riskalyze that develop more ACAT moments than the subject of crypto and digital assets. And I think not only will attendees and participants that are viewing this today, will they get the CFP credits, but I promise to deliver very meaningful sound bites and action items, talking points that they could be delivering with clients, with prospects, with COIs that can really help them differentiate and set up those ACAT moments, if you will. So I'm looking forward to delivering that, but I do have a few disclosures I must share with everybody too. Yes, the obligatory disclosures. A news flash, if you folks haven't heard, crypto and digital assets are emerging asset classes. These things are brand new, everybody. They are volatile. I'll talk more about our approach to crypto and digital, but it's grounded in common sense. And what that means is that you have to understand that these are very volatile asset classes, unlike anything anybody has really dealt with. If you've been in the traditional financial services industry as long as I have and my co-founder Mike have, you know, we've never seen anything like this. It's part of what makes it exciting. It's part of where the opportunity is. But I wanted to spend a few seconds here to allow folks to take a look at this disclosure page and to realize that there are risks involved in investing in crypto and digital assets. You probably didn't see this disclosure page, by the way, on any of those Super Bowl ads. That's for sure. But,
you mean the little bouncy thing going around the QR code? No, there.
I mean, we didn't see any of that. And brilliant advertising. If we have time, I can give you some thoughts about that later on in the discussion. But I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about my background, about my co-founder Michael Grizzard and his background. Let me just say that my comments today that I'll share with everybody, they really come from probably 3 different lenses. So when you look at my biography page, you know, you'll see a couple of bullets on there, but really there are 3 big lenses. One, I'd like to think I know what it's like to walk in the moccasins of a financial advisor today. I built a practice, I sold a very big practice, and then I worked in progressively larger leadership responsibilities for American Express, and then ultimately Ameriprise Financial, basically running a practice of practitioners. And so one of the lenses that informs my opinions that I'll share with you today comes from working in private practice, growing a practice, buying a practice, selling a practice. You get the idea. That's number one. And the second thing is, obviously, I'm coming through the lens of an executive that's involved in crypto and digital assets. And I think I have some very informed opinions that I can share with the audience today. And then third, I'm also a very active contributor, ironically today, to one of the post-NATO think tanks in Washington, D.C. called the Atlantic Council. And the Atlantic Council is an old centrist think tank. I contribute primarily to their geotech and geoeconomics centers, but I do think they're intertwined with the subject of digital assets and crypto. And I think I should probably add, it's obviously a very sobering day today and last night. At the time of this live broadcast, we know that Russia has invaded Ukraine. The markets are reacting in a not surprising way. And I know I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But now let me talk about somebody I'm very proud to talk about, who's my co-founder, Michael Grizzard. And I have to tell you, Mike is one of those typical slackers we come across nowadays. And I say that completely with a smile and tongue in cheek. Mike is a gifted academic. He was a summa cum laude graduate from a modestly potent technical school called Georgia Tech. And I kid again, it's one of the best schools in the world for technology. He has more than a dozen patents to his name, both individually and collectively with teams that he led in the technology space. He then went on to enjoy a decorated career in the financial services industry and actually managed a few $100 million of SMA portfolios in the wealth management industry as well, before coming and joining me to co-found this company. And I don't have a slide for it, but I do want to mention we're about to send out all the press trimmings and so forth, but we've just added a senior advisor to our board. His name is Michael Greenwald, and he comes with a distinguished background at the U.S. Treasury Department. Needless to say, his former colleagues are quite busy today as they map out the sanctions and so forth that will be taking place as a result of Russia's decision to invade the Ukraine. Michael brings a very, very unique level of thought leadership because he has that treasury background, but he's also a gentleman who's on the cutting edge of what are called central bank digital currencies. We'll talk about those in a little bit. And he's also a fellow that can speak very, very proficiently about these emerging asset classes that we study and that we manage for clients here at Rubicon Crypto. And so I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about our backgrounds. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and really looking forward to hearing all the the firepower coming in. That's probably, you know, with everything that's going in the world right now, maybe not the right word, but just the experience that's coming in right now in behind this and the thought leadership
Yeah.
behind this. So really excited to dive into that. Now, I know because I've kind of taken a look, Greg, at the deck here ahead of time, but I see that you had a quote that you wanted to share that's attributed to Dr. Gavin Wood. Could you tell us more about Dr. Wood and why you felt it was important to
Yes.
share this
Yeah.
specific quote with our audience today?
I'd be happy to, Chris. You know, it's timely to bring up this quote. And for those folks that are not familiar with this fellow, Gavin Wood is one of the original founders of Ethereum. Now, even if you're not big into crypto, you probably have heard of Ethereum before. He was their chief technology officer. He's a gifted technologist, cryptographer. You know, I'll probably butcher his CV, but he's one of those really pioneering forces in the world of blockchain technology. He now leads a company called Polkadot, but some time ago he observed, as kind of a juxtaposition of a quote that we've always heard, that the pen is mightier than the sword. I think we probably all heard that quote in high school or in college or at some point, that the pen is mightier than the sword. And I think as you read the quote that's on the screen, I'm not going to read it verbatim, you get the idea. What he's observing is it's now the keyboard, that these brilliant young technologists, these cryptographers, these coders, they are having an outsized role in the future of technology, in the future of our industry for that matter. And with the backdrop of a war taking place in the European continent for the first time in 80 years, it's technology, technologists, and coders that are entwined in every facet of our life. And I lead with this quote because if that is true, and if you do believe that the pen is mightier than the sword, then you must buy in that today's pen is the keyboard. We live in a world of coders. And so everything having to do with digital is going to run through these brilliant young coders, and some of them not so young, but these new generations are truly reimagining the world of financial services, the world of investing, the world of work, if you will, all through code. And it's really this big idea that kind of was the glue that put together what became Rubicon Crypto, seeing where the future is going. You know, we always tell clients before you get into crypto at all, you should be answering a couple of questions. One should be an obvious question, which is, do you or do you not believe, Chris, that the world is going to be more technologically advanced? It should be yes. Rather arrogant to think that this is it, right? We're not going any further.
Right.
But the second question that we always ask folks, and if you say yes to this one, is why you should then consider crypto and digital for a portion of your portfolio, is do you believe the world will be more digital, more code intensive? And of course, we've already come to the conclusion a long time ago that we believe it is. So that's really why I like to start conversations like this, borrowing from Gavin Wood. Again, he currently has founded a company called Polkadot, which you can check out if you have some interest there. Some fascinating work in the notion of blockchain sharding. Yes, I said blockchain sharding, and don't let me, that's another webinar, okay?
I was wondering, yeah, maybe we'll a little bit later, yeah. Interesting.
Another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great, and that really helps set the stage. Appreciate that, and what a great quote, and some good warm-ups there. So let's really dive into the meat of our conversation. And Greg, could you please walk us through again what you believe are the 5 things that every advisor needs to know about crypto? And you alluded to it again, and we're recording this on February 21st or 24th. A lot of world events going right now, Russia and Ukraine. So I know a lot of people have their eyes on the market. What's that going to look like for crypto, and maybe what clients might be even bringing to their advisors as we're in this kind of uncertain time? Can we lead with that and then maybe unpack those 5 things?
Yeah, yes, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. You know, the first thing that I would say is, look, this is a very sobering period of time. Ironically, I remember in my first couple of months as a financial advisor, driving to a prospect's home. Yeah, I drove to somebody's home to do a meeting on the night during the first Iraq war, the very, very first night. I was listening in my car as WBZ Boston was broadcasting. It was the first time I'd heard the word sortie, and I was 22 years of age. Here's my little known fact. I was one of the youngest CFPs in the country for about 7 days. And back in the early days, a long time ago, but I remember literally driving to a client's home when we were at the precipice of a global conflict or a U.S. conflict for the first time in my young life at that time. And so with that backdrop, Ukraine matters, and it matters a great deal. And it matters more than many people realize with respect to crypto. First, what many people, and I've done a lot of news segments where I've talked about this prior to this week's invasion, but we've already seen some of the volatility, just like the traditional markets in crypto, kind of baked in, right? It's already been baked into some of the pricing to a certain degree. As a matter of fact, right before we got on to do this webinar, we went through a very volatile evening last night. We saw the two largest cryptocurrencies in Bitcoin and Ethereum. They were down into the teens, very, very volatile. And they've stabilized at the time that we went live on the air at this particular point. Well, Ukraine, most people may not know, is a major crypto hub. As a matter of fact, prior to the war drums being beaten by Mr. Putin, there was great talk about Ukraine attracting and recruiting talent from all over the world. And what a lot of people don't realize is that involved with crypto and digital assets, you need to have people that support these networks, that develop these networks, that contribute to the blockchain technologies remotely in an open source kind of a way. Indeed, they're called developers for the laymen that are listening to this and lay people that are listening to this. And so this is going to have disruption to many of the projects that have depended upon coders that were based in the Ukraine, developers that were based in the Ukraine. So that's the short answer, number one. Number two, it just brings up the notion that crypto in general, Chris, we were talking about this off camera, that there was originally, people used to say, well, Bitcoin is not correlated to these other risk assets. It doesn't behave like them. And what we've been telling clients is we believe that perhaps long-term that may be true. And certainly the data would suggest that that's the case. But short-term, they very much behave like other risk assets for big news. Leaked Fed minutes or released Fed minutes about increasing rates, crypto is going to react like the equity markets. The world gets destabilized because Russia invades Ukraine, crypto is going to react similarly. And then what we see is crypto tends to revert back to its own behavior, its own idiosyncrasies in terms of the projects themselves, how mature they are, how well funded they are, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's one part of it. But this is the other piece that I think advisors should be able to talk about with their clients. And if you are able to talk to your clients about things like this, I think you differentiate and start to create more of those ACAT moments that you guys talk so much about, rightfully so, with your technology at Riskalyze. And what I think people need to understand is that today, the sanctions that were announced did not go absolutely full down on the, they didn't do the full max. They didn't bar the Russians, if you will, from access to the so-called SWIFT financial system. But if things continue to progress and we do see the Russians having no access to the international monetary and banking system, the SWIFT system, we could see an acceleration and a collaboration between China, who is already the furthest along developing what's called a central bank digital currency. And so it may drive the Russians to an even stronger relationship with the Chinese if they are cut off. And that may be some of the reason why the decision not to separate them from SWIFT was not taken earlier today. This is something to watch for. Without war, there has already been a migration around the world where there's over 150 projects in every country, over 150 countries, including the United States, are working to develop their own central bank digital currency that would no longer necessitate the old system that we've kind of tolerated. The SWIFT system is expensive, it's slow, it's rusty, and it's going to go. And this might actually accelerate it for the wrong reasons. It might accelerate that complete departure from what the world is used to. So in a weird way, the unintended consequences of the war in Ukraine right now may accelerate the development of and use of central bank digital currencies. That's a major talking point that I think the advisory community should be able to discuss, at least in the level that I've shared with you today. So aside from that, this is an incredible historic moment and something that I think is going to take a while for us to really reconcile with. We don't have many left from the greatest generation who fought on European soil. And so this is a truly sobering day, as I said before. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to go into some more because there are other implications with Ukraine that have to do with other new emerging powers that want to align elsewhere. But we can cover that in a bit. If you don't mind, would it be okay to dive into these 5 things? Would that be okay?
Absolutely, certainly timely for what we're experiencing, and it's so interesting how that's tying in. And I like what you said, the shift that we're experiencing right now, and how that's almost a hub that's happening right there. So timely to the conversation, and really advisors being aware of what's going on. So the expertise here is so appreciated. But yeah, please, if we could break down these 5 points as well, I'd really love that.
And let me just say a couple of other things right from the onset, if I can. First of all, whether it's Rubicon Crypto or people that are, billionaires at MicroStrategy and other companies that are really into crypto, no one has the market cornered on all the good ideas in these emerging asset classes. And if you run across a lady or gentleman who sounds way too confident and sure about a project going to the moon or something of that nature, please run like Hades, okay? It's just something that we would encourage. We are really early. The second is, I mentioned the lenses that I'm going to share some more of my perspective with you from. The other thing I want to say is that both my co-founder and I, and the folks at Rubicon Crypto, we are not crypto maximalists. We don't believe in a new world order that's 100% crypto and not involving traditional wealth management. There is no number on the Riskalyze scale that would define what the heck that is. 99 is not enough. Okay?
Say, pushing past 99 probably.
99, you can't drive 99 as far as that's concerned. Okay.
Pegging the meter, yeah.
Yeah. So we're not crypto maximalists. We're realists. We believe in the future in technology and these gifted young minds that are reimagining the world with blockchain, with cryptography, and doing things differently than the way that we've operated over the past many hundreds of years. So we do believe in that, but we believe in it with moderation. Not quite minimalists, and we're certainly not maximalists. So I want to get that out of the way. Let me also get this out of the way. One of the things I hope that anybody that's viewing this particular conversation today can once and for all get into their heads, whether or not you buy crypto, invest in crypto and digital assets, whether or not you advocate for clients, or whether or not you personally think it's whatever Charlie Munger or the Oracle of Omaha think that it is, okay? It really doesn't matter because the reality is legitimacy is in the industry. Last year, legitimacy came to crypto. And you might be saying, well, what are you talking about with legitimacy in crypto? I'm not saying that there isn't going to remain the most incredible volatility that most advisors have ever seen or clients have ever seen. Unless they've been longtime investors in the commodity markets, they've never seen this kind of volatility, daily volatility. The reason I say that the industry has become legitimate is for a few very, very good reasons. First of all, if sovereign wealth funds, in other words, the wealth funds of nation states, if venture capital firms, if private equity firms, if pension funds, if those kinds of folks are investing, if endowment funds at universities are investing in crypto, I'm not saying that's why you should invest in crypto and digital assets, but I'm not saying you shouldn't either. These are historically the smart money people. They hoard talent. They've got such bright people. They've got the best algorithms, and they poured literally billions and billions and billions into the crypto industry with direct investment, infrastructure investment, you name it. The other reasons I would say might give you some consideration for legitimacy. one of the most prestigious business schools, Wharton University at University of Penn, their business school, they accept crypto for their tuition payments, of course. I would point out that the United States government included provisions for crypto to pay its fair share in the infrastructure bill that passed in a bipartisan, barely, but passed in a bipartisan way late last year. That should tell you that it's legitimate and not a criminal or a farcical enterprise. And I have to say a couple of other things. Walmart, many people don't realize this, but Walmart is putting thousands of crypto ATMs across its footprint. And they're doing that not because they're not smart people. They're doing it because they're creating a laboratory for the payments in digital crypto space right in their stores. And so I'm not saying that you should be interested in investing in crypto because of it, all of these things. But again, I'm not saying you shouldn't either. This is smart money. Smart money is investing in crypto, whether you think it's a good idea or not. What I'm asking you to do is, if you don't think crypto is a good idea, please don't mention Beanie Babies. Please don't mention Dutch tulips anymore. You sound silly. Imagine if they talk to you and you say that, and they talk to somebody with far more eloquence than I have about these subjects, you're gonna look silly. If you don't believe in it, you need to study ways that you can combat the discussion or rebut the discussion. Maybe follow a fellow by the name of Rubini, who's a decorated academic and who thinks negatively about crypto. But don't mention Beanie Babies. You know, you've worked hard to build a practice. Don't be lazy when it comes to these new emerging asset classes. I think it's a strong message, but I think it's an important message that I wanted to share with folks. You know, there's another area that I think you need to know about right now, and that you need to talk about with clients right now. And it's the notion, I was trying to be a little bit cute when I say the game changer, gamification and DEPs. The SEC refers to DEPs as digital engagement practices that essentially are using gamification technology to enter into the investment space we all have enjoyed and love. Let me talk to you about that a little bit more. I don't want to go on too much of a rant. I obviously am involved with my partners with a technology-focused asset management company, so I believe in the future of technology, but I'm also a realist. I think most people today now look at Facebook as certainly having the potential to engineer positive outcomes for society. But I think over the last 5, 7, 8 years, we've come to appreciate that maybe everything about the Facebook algorithms were not purely altruistic. So the so-called elegant algorithms that essentially learn us better than we know us, they literally know our behavior and are predicting our behavior better than we could ever imagine, is something that the industry refers to as elegant algorithms. Today, there are platforms, most notably Robinhood, but there are many others that employ their own elegant algorithms. And they also use the metadata and research from the casino industry that has learned about human behavior, addictive behavior. And they marry and shrink wrap those two technologies and AIs together. And what we do is we then attach it to this fine specimen right here. And we put it on a phone. And essentially what they've done is they've been able to circumvent us in a way that's unlike the robo-advisor trends, unlike anything else that has threatened our industry. And it's just getting started, Chris. So when you weaponize the phone like that, and if the phone and the algorithm knows the client better than the client knows themselves, my goodness, how can the financial advisor even hope to know the client as well as the algorithm? And so I say that because if I was sitting down with a client doing a review conversation, it's a quarterly review, we're doing our annual review, whatever meeting, I probably want to say a few of the sound bites that I just said. I may want to tell them that, look, you know, when you download some of these trading applications, you know, remind the kids, but you really speak into the clients as well, right? That, you know, not only do you give up your data, not only are you not getting the best price when you place a transaction on one of those exchanges, but you also may be setting yourself up for digital engagement practices. So Chris, I remember a time where literally by hand, if we were doing a solicited trade with a client, we had to write it down in an old-fashioned blotter, even before there was the keyboard, if you will, right? And so it was a solicited trade. Some of these gamification platforms that exist with all of the different trading exchanges that are out there, and crypto is involved in this. These crypto exchanges are doing it too. They are perfecting how to send notifications. Chris, I noticed you haven't traded in 5 days. Don't you think it's time for you to trade again? Chris, it's like the Freddie Flintstones on either side of your shoulder, the good one and the bad one, if there are any old folk out there that can remember the Flintstones. But literally, they're able to get to you. They know when you make purchases, when you're on the phone, when you're most likely to transact. They know what color to use, what font to use. It's literally that precise. And so the SEC rightfully is worried not only about regulating crypto in a more efficient way, we'll get to that in a second, but they're also concerned about the impact that these technologies, unshepherded, might have on many of the things: predatory behavior, exclusionary behavior in the financial services industry. And so this is something that if I was in private practice, I would be bringing up as a general talking point. One of the things I want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, is this is what's happening on your phone. Just know that you're being gamified. And I think when you bring these subjects to a client, they appreciate it, and you add deposits of credibility into your bank. And I believe that to be true. Let me talk to you about the crypto tax and regulatory landscape, if I can. I laugh a little bit when I talk to folks that come to us because they think they're going to get involved with crypto investing and they're not going to pay taxes. It's a riot. Of course you're going to pay taxes. It may be less clear how much you're going to pay. It may be clear how it's going to be categorized. It may go back 2 or 3 years retroactively to figure out where you're going to be taxed. But you're not going to escape taxation with crypto. And when you're talking to clients out there, you need to be able to remind them that and say, listen, I'm not sure if you are investing in crypto, you need to know that you have responsibilities for taxes. You should make sure that your existing tax counsel, your existing CPA counsel, that they're up to speed and they know how to handle this. On your tax return forms going back to 2020, on the top of that return, it said, did you or have you ever possessed, sold, owned, etc., cryptocurrencies or digital assets? So they're looking, they will get their piece of the pie. I also believe that advisors need to know that this year is going to see more regulatory clarity. It's without question. Maybe we skirt into January next year, but the writing's on the wall that there'll be more clarity. Let me give you an example of that. Earlier this month, I should say, BlockFi, a major exchange headquartered in New Jersey, a state that I used to run as an executive at Amex, a highly regulated state. They just entered into a settlement with the state of New Jersey, other states, and also the SEC, where they agreed to pay $100 million. And so regulation and clarity is being given by some of these decisions. So let's speak about it from a client perspective. So clients that were already invested in some of these products that they got slapped on the wrist, if you want to call $100 million a slap on the wrist, clients that were already invested weren't frozen and didn't have to liquidate their investments. The clients weren't penalized, but they were not allowed to do more of the stuff that was now being regulated differently. But they weren't forced to vacate in a bad way. They couldn't add more money. They could only maintain the existing positions. Now I'm generalizing in the interest of time on what was basically a stack this thick of a write-up, but you get the idea. The industry is going to become more and more regulated. That decision against BlockFi is given clarity. Even their CEO said, we now have more clarity in the industry about what's going to be taking place. And so when you go and talk to clients, and if you don't understand what's going on and say, well, it's not regulated, they'll talk to somebody like me, I'll shred you. I'll shred somebody that's not educated. It's very easy to stay up to speed and add value, because when we get to the final bullet point, I think I can make a compelling case that your clients own crypto and you don't even know that they do.
Interesting.
And that's going to come in a second. I want to talk to you about this bullet point, and I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna keep it relatively light here. Cryptocurrency is a horrible, horrible catch-all phrase. Horrible. Because really in the discussion of cryptocurrency in the industry, there are 4 or 5 very big silos that it's kind of catch-alled into cryptocurrency. And one of the biggest things that's going on that goes back up into that legitimacy bullet point that we started with here is the notion that right now, well over 150 nations are deeply exploring the use of cryptocurrency in what are called central bank digital currencies, testing all manner of ways to go about doing this. And so blockchain technology, which is at the foundation of all crypto, no matter what it looks like, what dog, what Martian, whatever it might be that looks kind of cute and fun and all of this and that, there is meaningful technology at the core, at the foundational layers of it. And so you need to be able to, in my view, talk to clients about the fact that our government, the Chinese government, and more than 150 others are working towards a central bank digital currency. And also, you may have heard, Chris, of something called a stable coin. And stable coins are being used as the coin in the crypto world of choice to be able to move between one cryptocurrency and another, from one chain to another. And this is another area that's likely to see some regulation coming down, specifically around the reserves that these companies are required to disclose and keep. And they're designed to be stable. They're designed to track relatively the movement of the US dollar in this particular case. And so this innovation, this is going to be one of the biggest headlines, and advisors really should be looking for sound bites throughout the year, not just from me, but from other professionals in the community to better educate what these implications are. And they're massive. Imagine if a company like Amazon decided to create its own stablecoin and thereby not have to go into the global payment system. They could conduct their business throughout their entire global footprint in a way that would save them gazillions in margin, right? If there is such a thing, gazillions in margin. This is the kind of innovation that's taking place in money that really hasn't been seen since humans started bartering and trading, and we started working our way up from paper money all the way to plastic, okay? And that's taking place right now. And what is really going to be disrupted are the legacy systems that are currently being used by crypto and blockchain. And that's the SWIFT system I mentioned earlier in the discussion about Ukraine, and also the bank, the International Settlements Bank, or BIS, Bank for International Settlements. These are the legacy dinosaurs. These are the behemoths. These are the major incumbents, if you will, where all the money is really flowing for global trade and transaction. And they're fighting like heck not to lose primacy, but the reality is the innovation in some of the places we've talked about with central bank coins and stable coins, it's incredible. Now let me talk to you about something. Oh, go ahead, please.
Can I jump in real quick and just kind of, and maybe you're going to get to it in this last, the dilemma. And here's what I'm thinking, putting myself in the seat of our audience here. I'm an advisor. Maybe I've got clients or prospects coming in that are already starting to talk to me about this. And I'm thinking, like you're saying, this is growing so fast. It's growing so big. Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, there's so many, it's 100 miles wide, 100 miles deep. As an advisor, blockchain, all this, like, do I really need to get my head around all the little bits and details, or is it just more of the higher level concepts that because I could spend a full-time job just trying to figure all this out.
I can tell you how much time you can spend on it. It's 100 hours a week.
Okay, all right, yeah.
It's 100 hours a week. This is, thank you for that, because it's the advisor crypto dilemma.
Yeah.
And the window for advisors to be able to have something to say about crypto and digital that's intelligent, informed, okay, and strong, that window is closing with every single day. Because if you don't step forward and at least have something to say, have resources to provide, clients will start to look elsewhere for that information rather than go through you as a conduit. So the dilemma that I talk about is this is the first time in the history of the financial services industry where the audience that's joining us today, however large or small, I can say to you that this is the first time that clients are bypassing the industry to access new products, new investment programs without an advisor. Of course, there was always a do-it-yourselfer. Of course, there's a one-off. But in mass, they're buying crypto without you instead of with you. The dilemma also is because many broker-dealers prohibit advisors from even talking about this. Yet many of them, like JP Morgan Chase, they're spending billions, as we heard last week, on buying digital land in the metaverse. Morgan Stanley actually owns crypto on their corporate treasury. You know, this is the dilemma where the companies are buying it and prohibiting advisors from even talking about it. It's not fair to advisors. And so what we're saying is you don't have time to do crypto right. You know, and if you did, you don't have time to serve your clients well. And no surprise, this is where we saw an opportunity to form our company because we felt we could connect the dots. We felt we had an approach to crypto investing that was appropriate. And I'd love to share more about that with you if we still have some time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I want to talk, you know, we're talking about rational exuberance. You mentioned that a few times in the interaction. That's another question that's come up. You know, can you kind of elaborate on the why of that and why it's so important to you at Rubicon Crypto?
So blame me, I'm a little bit of a history geek. I started in private practice in 1990. I can't help it. You know, the first celebrity Federal Reserve chairman was Alan Greenspan, and he came to prominence during the time of the 24-hour news cycle, and in particular, 24-hour financial news. And literally 25 years ago, this past December, I want to say it was December 5th, he was speaking at a dinner. I'm sure there were some economists there, Chris, and he said the quote in public, which he didn't come up with, but it's attributed to him. Another economist actually did, if I'm not mistaken. But he basically said about the markets, there exists a climate of irrational exuberance. And what Mike and I believe, what we believe here at Rubicon Crypto, is that the client behavior, the advertising, the energy, instead of it being focused on rational excitement, rational exuberance, it's focused on, cool-looking coins and, Shiba dogs and things like that. You shouldn't not have fun. One of the cool things about the industry is that it's fun, it's exciting, it's creative. There's some brilliantly creative people, it's artistic, but it's over the top. We want clients to be focused on things from a rational perspective, rational exuberance. And so we've borrowed from Mr. Greenspan, if you will, who borrowed from somebody else, I suppose. And one of the pillars of our company is about delivering crypto solutions both to individual investors, to RIAs, eventually to all financial advisors, and to institutional clients with rational exuberance and with common sense. And that's at the bedrock of our values and our approach to what we do.
Awesome. That's fantastic. We're talking about the approach in the marketplace. What can you take talk a little bit about that? Explain your approach in the marketplace. What makes it unique? Why dive into this deeper? You talked a lot about that. Maybe unpack it some more.
Well, part of it was, I can go back to an anecdote where one of my very first clients that didn't have my last name, I called when I was first approached about this opportunity to come in and collaborate with what eventually became Rubicon. And I called this gal who's from Massachusetts, kind of a salty person, uses colorful language with an accent, mind you. And she basically, after the pleasantry, says, "Greg, what the hell do you think about this crypto business?" And I said to her, "Ruth, you're 1,000 years old. Why are you asking me about crypto. And it really was like a thunderbolt that here, somebody who is 80 something years old is finding its way to crypto. And I'm like, holy smokes. As somebody who was a 24 for a while, that did have supervisory responsibility, that did see all of the dark and light side of the industry, we felt we could offer something of value. What we saw, Chris, to be clear, was there were really only a couple of ways that clients could invest in crypto. One was they could do it themselves. The other is they could use pioneering, but what we felt were inferior products, like some of the investment trusts that you're very familiar with out there. There are many of them. Right. And what we thought was, why wouldn't we bring some of the same investment approach that clients that we used to work with that are mass affluent, high net worth, ultra high net worth, even family office level clients? Why wouldn't we bring those products? And what we decided to do was basically to create separately managed accounts that would be able to deliver actual crypto in portfolios that clients could own and have a piece of this emerging marketplace. And so our approach is grounded, as I said, with rational exuberance, number one. Number two, the first hard decision that we had to make as an executive team was we needed to find an exchange and custody partner that would echo the conservative approach that we were taking. You know, I joke around a little bit. I'm actually okay when I say to some people, like, we're okay being your grandfather's crypto company, okay? Because we want to do everything we can to take a little bit of the edge out of this wild space. And we're doing that in our view. Gemini, you may have heard of Gemini. For those that haven't, it was founded by the Winklevoss twins of Facebook lawsuit and movie fame. And they founded, in our view, what is the most conservatively managed and operated crypto exchange in the world. It's headquartered in New York. It has been regulated and it has been transparent with their books from day one. I ran a big business in New York. I can tell you how heavy-handed the regulatory burdens are in New York versus other states, and they've been regulated like a banking entity. So our approach was anchored in affiliating for custody service and for exchange service with what we believe to be the most stable and conservative of the crypto exchanges. And then we get to work. We take a look at the different crypto projects that are out there. And by we, I mean Mike, our chief investment officer, and certainly I'm involved in the investment committee side of things for sure. But we do both fundamental and technical analysis. Some of the fundamental analysis is the same that you might do on a startup company or a NASDAQ company or a bigger company in the traditional world. And then we have proprietary fundamental filters that we use to try and generate long-term alpha for our clients. And of course, there's also technical analysis, which as you probably know, is trying to figure out when and how much to allocate, when to not allocate, etc. And all of that, when you partner with the RIAs that we're working with already in the community, they tell us we've helped them gather more assets, acquire new clients, and actually distance themselves from their peers, because we can be their crypto arm. We can collaborate with them to do events that make and reflect and complement their existing book of business. And that's been one of the very rewarding things that we've discovered so far. That's the approach that we've been using. And if you don't mind, there's a couple of things that we're very, very proud of. You know, without trying too hard over the last several months, this approach has been resonating in a lot of places, not just with individual clients, not just with RIAs, but with the media at large. So we've been featured in a tremendous amount of media opportunities, whether it's been the traditional news outlets. We've also been widely featured on a streaming platform called Newsy, and you may not watch it, but it's one of the most popular ways that the younger generations are consuming news the way that we used to consume it. I always get a laugh. People look at the Weather Channel and they're like, why are you guys?
That was my question. Like, why is the Weather Channel?
Well, for one, their midday audience has more than 500,000 viewers on any given day, which is pretty robust. But they asked us to come on and speak to crypto's impact on the environment. And that's one of the hot button items. and we can discuss with some degree of expertise what the fact versus the fiction is. So that was a super fun segment. We're enjoying that. And if I can, I think there's one other slide that I can brag a little bit about in our approach and what makes it different. And here you go. Thank you. We are super clear that we don't have the market, as I said from the very beginning, we don't have the market cornered on all the great ideas. And as a result of that, we look to surround ourselves with other smart and gifted people. Earlier in January, we were proud to formally announce a really robust research collaboration with the mathematics department at the University of Georgia. It is sponsored and supported by the entire alphabet soup of mathematics societies and agencies that if you're not involved in math, you don't even know exists, but we're grateful for their support. What it means is that we get very talented young people to take a look at our proprietary in-house approach to research and modeling and make sure that we're crossing T's, dotting I's, or we can look at it differently. And if I'm being honest, they're also helping us think about new ways to look at correlation, new ways to look at how we might do fundamental analysis. And later this year, I might say I'm very proud, we're going to be participating with a brand new master's degree program at Emory University, and we are going to be one of their formal externship partners, working with their students throughout that concentrated, exclusive MBA in advanced finance. So those are two things that we're super excited about that speak to the approach that we think is different and why it's adding so much value.
Awesome, awesome. We were talking a little bit earlier. We're both, history nerds a little bit like that. And you said you've dove into Latin. I love some of your kind of learning a bit of Latin. Maybe we can close a little bit. We've got a little bit of history here. One more slide here. Let me just advance our slide deck here where we can talk.
Oh yes. Yeah, 5 years of Latin in middle school and high school combined, it netted me really good English board scores when they mattered. It gave me a very good first conversation with my future wife on our first date because she had some Latin background. It made it very easy when our team came up with the idea for Rubicon. I think even Mike came up with the exact idea of Rubicon, but that was like a rubber stamp. But in all seriousness, this is a quote from the play Julius Caesar. And it really first spoke to me when I realized, looking back at the first chapters of my financial career, how good I had it with timing. In other words, there are times in your career or personal life where the tides are perfect. And if you don't take advantage of them and ride them for all it's worth, you may never get on the wave again. And I think this quote from Shakespeare really speaks to that. And we're encouraging advisors right now, there's still time. Dial in a little bit. Partner with us for education. Feel free to use us as a proxy for your subject matter expertise, but at least do the very little that's necessary in a fast evolving world, or I think you're going to miss the tide. I really do. And that's the reason we bring this quote up all the time. People that have known me for a while in businesses that I've run, they're rolling their eyes because I bring it up. You have to approach business with a sense of urgency because you may not be entitled to prosecute your business tomorrow the way that you can today. And I think we're all learning a very, very sober lesson again about that based on what's going on several thousand miles away in Europe right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Greg, I appreciate it. And just if folks are wondering how they can get a hold of you, how they might be able to partner with you, before we get a few minutes left here for some questions, can you just let us know how they can connect with you?
Of course, Chris, thank you very much. We're honored to be a part in a small way of the Riskalyze ecosystem. I've said this before to your founder over a buffet line in Palm Springs at the national conference. If I had your technology in 1999, when I was in private practice, I don't know that I'm bothering you today on this webinar because I think I would have stayed in practice. I think the tools that you bring are amazing. So to be in a small way to support your ecosystem and the work that you're leading, it's a privilege, and we thank you again for the opportunity. We're in the business of educating advisors right now. We spend half of our time speaking with financial advisors every single day, every single week. For the RIAs that we formally partner with, we're doing events for and with them to help educate their clients and indeed do business together. But we're encouraging everybody that would like to go and contact me directly via email. That's also my mobile phone number right there. It's greg@rubiconcrypto.com. My mobile phone is 213-929-0018. Yes, we will answer the phone. And if that's not what you want to do, go on the website, and there's a way for you to book an appointment directly with us there on the RIA landing page. And we're swamped right now, but we'll accommodate anybody. If you just please mention Riskalyze, we put you to the front of the line, and we'd be happy to do that and just have a common sense crypto conversation where we can maybe go deeper into the questions you're getting from clients, or maybe the questions you have yourself as a layperson, as a professional, or as a crypto investor.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we're getting close here, and for those of you on the East Coast, I know we're a little bit past 5 o'clock, but thanks for hanging with us. I've got some questions coming in, Greg. Do you mind if I throw a few your way that folks have been asking, and we can round our time off with that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We've got some good puns on the last name, by the way, but
I'm sure you did. Keep them clean.
Let's see. Here's a question. Why does the central bank digital currency have the acronym CDBC and not CBDC? Any thouts on that?
Well, it's probably a typo on the slide. Is probably what that is for sure. So it's CBDC.
Good to know. I missed that. I missed that too. Let me see here.
Thank you for that. English teachers my English teachers from the past are rolling right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Why would the U.S. give up control over the SWIFT system? See Canada and why they froze everything.
Yeah. You know, I don't think that it's a question of choice. I think what's happening right now, and this is work that I'm deeply interested in and connected to, it's a great question that unfortunately we don't have the time to do the answer justice, because it's a very good question, but it's a meaningful answer. I'll give a couple of bullets to it, and that is that the U.S. is losing primacy right now. If we do not come up with a better mousetrap, I'm not saying we follow the Chinese digital yuan program. I'm not saying we have to make ours like any other nation that's currently reviewing central bank digital currencies. But the reality is the SWIFT system is falling apart. It is expensive, and whether we like it or not, companies are going to migrate to stablecoin platforms, and they're not going to participate. It's not a question of if that will happen. It's just a question of which big one is first. I maybe teased a name that I think could be first, but any major U.S. company with global operations, any multinational, I promise you, they are deep, deep, deep into figuring out how they can have their own stable coin for their internal affairs, for sure.
Nice.
Great question.
Yeah, good one. All right, let's see. Let's make this our last question of the day today. Can you speak to the argument that Bitcoin or any crypto asset is or is not at the same as any fiat currency like the US dollar, especially related to its value and market sentiment?
Yeah, these are great questions. So we've got advisors on this broadcast that are not the norm, okay? So those are, I wish I would get more questions. I'm not getting these kind of questions when I talk to most advisors in the field. All right. So first of all, yes, in my view, Bitcoin does have all the properties of fiat currency, which are medium of exchange, store of value, unit of account, and the all-important social contract that holds everything together. But just like other nations' fiat currencies, some are better than others. Some do a better job of storing value. Some do a better job at unit of account. Some do a better job of the social contract, etc. But the question is very perceptive. Yes, it does, in my view, in the view of many others, meet the standard of being a fiat currency, but it is not a very good one right now. It probably has, despite the volatility, more of the store of value elements in Bitcoin specifically, than it does being a good medium of exchange. So that's my take on that question.
Appreciate that. Well, we're going to leave it there. Greg, thank you so much. We had some great contests here for the swag. Hey, Nick said really enjoyed the bigger picture concept discussed here to help us navigate the crypto quandary. So well done, Nick. Get you.
That's
And
awesome.
and Todd did a whole joke. I mean, it's like 3 lines long with the payoff being quant. So Todd, we'll get you some Riskalyze swag as well, just for the effort there. But Greg, so appreciate your thought leadership and navigating us through there, and really making advisors aware of what they need to be talking about and getting ahead of their clients and making sure that they've got something intelligent to say about this. And thank you so much for joining us again today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. And just a reminder, this is being recorded, so folks, you'll get a copy of the recording later on. Any questions about the CE credit, events@riskalyze.com, events@riskalyze.com. Let us know how you enjoyed it. And thanks again, Greg, and we'll see everybody next time. Have a great rest of your evening.
Too.
Bye-bye.